City of Norfolk Planning Commission. At this time, we ask that you turn off all pagers, cell phones, or other electronic signaling devices. The agenda for today's hearing is located in the council chamber lobby. Staff reports and maps for the City Planning Commission hearings will be available online approximately 1 week prior to the public hearing. To access this information, log on to www.norfolk.gov/planning. If you wish to speak on an item on today's agenda, you must fill out a request form with a staff member located in the council chamber lobby. We normally hear the items in the order in which they are listed on the agenda. The Planning Department staff will introduce each item by stating the type and purpose of the application and the location of the property. A staff member will deliver a presentation on each item, followed by a recommendation on each application to be considered at this hearing. Following the staff presentation, the commission will hear from the proponents and then from the opponents if there are any. Anyone who has signed in to speak will be called by the chair. They should approach the podium, state their name and mailing address. The speaker should speak directly to the commission and not to the audience. Remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each. However, the applicant's time will not be limited. After all proponents and opponents have been heard, the commission will allow rebuttal first from the proponents, then from the opponents. Total time for rebuttal is 5 minutes each. At the conclusion of the hearing on each item and after considering all information presented, the commission will take action on the matter. Action on the matter by the commission will be to recommend approval or denial by a majority vote. The statement of the motion in the affirmative by the member of the staff is a matter of voting procedure and in no way indicates the recommendation of the staff or consensus of the commission. Following the action by the commission on the matter, a written recommendation will be made to City Council, except for those applications where the decision of the Planning Commission is final. Anyone who attends the commission public hearing for a specific item will be notified by the City Clerk's office of the date on which the City Council will consider the application. May we have the roll?
Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mr. Wells?
Here.
Mr. Pendleton?
Here.
And no, Ms. Van is absent. Mr. Bateman?
Here.
And Ms. Sutter?
I am here.
Okay, so to start off, we've got several Architectural Review Board items. Item number 1 is 2411 Granby Street, design review of outdoor dining related to an encroachment.
Good afternoon. This applicant's proposing to install new outdoor dining area that will encroach into the public right-of-way, and the applicant will also need to modify their conditional use permit to reflect the additional seats added. This property is a contributing resource within the Norfolk and Western Railroad National Register District, but is not part of the local overlay district, so it does not require a seaway. Here's some more site photos. And then here's the proposed elevations and plan. The outdoor dining area will have 2 sections and will be enclosed by a 36-inch metal railing. Each section will have a total of 8 seats and umbrellas at each table, and they'll be secured with a steel base. Here's the material palette. ARB with a vote of 7-0 recommended approval. This is consistent with the Norfolk Outdoor Spaces Guideline and also supports goal number 2 in the Norfolk 2050 Celebrating Our Community.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Thank you very much. We do have the applicant here, Krista Grass. I believe she's here to answer questions, if anyone has any questions for her. No. Any discussion before we vote? All right. Thank you.
Okay, the motion is to approve the project as presented. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells? Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye.
The second design review item, ARB, 1517 Colley Avenue, design review for new signage, lighting, and ADA ramp related to an encroachment.
All right, so the applicant is proposing a few modifications, which include the new signage, 3 new gooseneck lights, and the installation of a new ADA-compliant stoop and ramp to provide accessible entry. Here's some photographs of the site. And then here's the proposed plan for the ADA ramp. The ADA stoop and ramp will be located on the front elevation facing Collie and will consist of a concrete platform and 6-foot-long ramp with a maximum rise of 6 inches. And there'll be railings around the step, and the railings are being repurposed from the previous tenant's outdoor dining area. And here's a survey. And then here's the proposed sign. The proposed sign will have raised half-inch high-density urethane letters mounted on a backer board, and it'll be externally illuminated by 3 black gooseneck lights with angled shades. And then here's the sign and the railing, and then some more details on the lighting. And ARB voted to recommend approval of 7-0.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. Krista Grass is here representing the applicant. Any questions for her? All right. No discussion before, okay, I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval as presented. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
The next ARB item, 1220 and 1221 West 25th Street, design review for signage, lighting, sunshades, and stairs related to an encroachment.
Good afternoon, Commission. This is located in the rail yard development over off of Hampton Boulevard. It's located in the Norfolk and Western Railroad Historic District. Again, this is not in the overlay, so no COA is required. This development actually went through approval back in 2020. Construction occurred in 2024. All of the buildings that are part of this application are considered non-contributing in that area. The completed construction was all to what was approved and reviewed by you all and by ARB, as well as for their permits. There was a technical oversight where encroachments were just not obtained when this first went through in 2020 during COVID. The applicant became aware of this as they tried to pull a permit for something else, and they're coming through to correct that issue. So this relates to 4 buildings, buildings 2, 4, 5, and 6. That includes the 2 that face out of the development, and then the 2 on the interior. The encroachments include awnings, lighting, signage, and then a set of double stairs that are supposed to provide access to a pedestrian skyway between buildings 5 and 6. These are just examples of the existing conditions. As I said, this has been in place since at least 2024. With a vote of 7-0, the ARB did recommend to approve this as submitted.
Thank you. Any questions? I don't believe we have anyone signed up to speak. Any discussion before we vote? I think we're ready.
The motion is to approve the project as presented. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Sutter? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye, thank you.
Okay, and the last ARB item, 238 East Princess Anne Road, Elmwood Cemetery, installation of granite columbaria.
The applicant is the city. This is a Parks and Recreation project that was funded with FY25 funds. This is to install columbaria at Elmwood Cemetery, which is one of our historic cemeteries. It has for quite some time been full. The addition of the columbaria will add about 560 additional spaces for interment within the cemetery, which will allow for its continued use as a cemetery, which is something we love to see with our National Register listed properties. The location will be perpendicular to the administrative building, kind of in the center of the cemetery itself. There are a number of mature trees and some markers in this area. However, the location where the columbaria will be placed will have minimal root disturbance and should not affect any of the existing markers and monuments that are located there. Some root pruning may be needed, but the trees themselves should be fine. This is an example of the kind of that open space in between the trees where it will be placed. This is a rendering of what the finished condition will look like, and this is what it would look like in its actual location. The proposed material palette is primarily red granite to contrast with the historic materials of the cemetery, but then to have accents of the light gray granite that you'll find throughout with the historic markers. Sidewalks will connect this to the streets on either side where most people will park. The project also includes the addition of an accessible parking space, which will also connect to the columbaria location with a new sidewalk. We presented this project this week, and the ARB did recommend with a vote of 7-0 to recommend as approved. as
questions?
presented.
Any discussion? I think we're ready.
The motion is to approve the project as presented. Dr. Whibley? Aye. Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Okay, next on your agenda are the consent items, so we will vote in a block. And the items that we will consider is item number 1, 442 Granby Street, installation of a new sign that's encroaching, 1045 East Brambleton. It's the new Hunton YMCA. Number 3 is Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar for conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with extended hours at 725 East Little Creek Road. Number 4, Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar for conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with extended hours at 5750 East Virginia Beach Boulevard. 2 more. Number 5, Lights Group LLC for conditional use permit for a renewal for a short-term rental. And number 6, INAB Properties for a conditional use permit. And this is also a renewal for a short-term rental. So one motion on all of those items. So the motion is to recommend approval, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley. Aye. Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton.
Aye.
Mr. Bateman.
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, on to our regular agenda. Number 1, Meowkins for the following applications at 111 Pennsylvania Avenue. A conditional change of zoning from conditional CC, Community Commercial, and PCO Riverview, Pedestrian Commercial Overlay, Riverview, to conditional CC and PCO Riverview, and B, a conditional use permit to operate a kennel. The purpose of these requests are to allow the operation of a kennel.
Thank you, Susan. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The site is located on the southeast corner of Omohundro and Pennsylvania Avenues, west of Granby Street in the Riverview neighborhood. The proposed use of kennel is consistent with NFK 2050, which places this site both in the sustained traditional and community mixed-use place type. You can see on the map, most of the site is in the community mixed-use place type, which designates commercial as a primary use. The property is zoned conditional CC and Riverview PCO to conditional CC and Riverview PCO. If you recall, during a previous public hearing and adoption by council, kennel was allowed in the Riverview PCO by conditional use permit. However, this site was conditionally rezoned previously to allow very specific uses, including an art gallery, which is what it operated as before 111 Art. So the applicant is modifying the proffered conditions from that rezoning, as shown on the screen, to specifically allow kennel and to continue to abide by the restrictions on the operating hours. You'll notice that in the initial set of proffers, there was a condition in there about the mixed-use residential if they added a second story and applying for a special exception. We don't require special exceptions anymore. They're now conditional use permits. And we don't require conditional use permits for mixed use for mixed use in this district. So there was no need to continue to proffer that condition. So the applicant removed it. Otherwise, the proffered conditions are staying pretty much the same. Again, this is the site formerly operated as 111 Art. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional rezoning subject to the applicant's proper conditions and recommends approval of the conditional use permit. The use aligns with NFK 2050 and the intent of the Riverview PCO. It's open to the public from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week, and we do limit the request to cats and other small animals that don't require outdoor runs. This was done because the applicant did talk to the Civic League about this when they initially presented as a cat kennel.
Questions? We do have the applicant here, Blake Sablatora. If you will, please start with your name and your mailing address, please.
Okay. Hello, my name is Blake Sablatura. My mailing address is 602 East Bayview Boulevard. I am the applicant proposing the conditional use permit and conditional rezoning for Meowkins LLC, located at 111 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Did you want to share anything in addition to what was?
Sure. So what we're trying to do is open a cat-exclusive facility, a cat hotel, if you will, but a cat kennel. In this facility, we would only have cats, a maximum of 40. In holidays, only 50. This is because we know cat owners are very particular. We would know that they have special needs for their cats and for themselves. So we want to ensure that the facility is clean, no smell, minimal waste, minimal disturbances to the public, and is essentially just a cat hotel. No other animals, no dogs, no ferrets, nothing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Sablatore? All right,
Okay.
thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any discussion before we vote? Thank you.
The motion is to recommend approval, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you so much for coming out.
Item number 2, Cova Brewing Company for change in zoning from RC Residential Coastal and Conditional CR Regional Commercial to CC Community Commercial at 9519 22nd Bay and a 3,000 square foot portion of 9523 22nd Bay Street. The purpose of this request is to allow the development of a parking lot.
Thank you, Susan. So as Susan mentioned, Cova Brewing Company is requesting a rezoning for 9519 and a portion of 9523 22nd Bay Street. This is on the west side of 22nd Bay Street, north of Pretty Lake Avenue. The purpose is to develop an off-lot parking facility for Cova Brewing Company. The proposal is consistent with NFK 2050, which designates the site as community mixed use. 9519 22nd Bay is currently zoned RC, and 9523 22nd Bay is currently zoned conditional CR. The applicant's requesting to rezone 9519 on the southern 20 feet of 9523 22nd Bay Street to community commercial. Here is a photo of the site. The white fence on the right is roughly where the proposed property line would be located. The structures you see on the other side of that white fence are not part of this lot. They're part of the amenity space for the adjacent shopping center, not residential homes. So here's the proposed subdivision layout showing the portion to be rezoned. Lots 48, 49, 50, and 51 were recently rezoned as part of the East Beach Square Shopping Center's amenity space. This proposal would rezone the southern 20 feet of lot 51. And our recommendation, given that it does not conflict with 2050, NFK 2050, and it supports an existing business, staff recommends approval.
Any questions for? Thank you. Not have anyone signed up to speak. Any discussion before we go to a vote? All right. Susan?
The motion is to recommend approval of the rezoning. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
I will abstain from my vote for this. Thank you.
And Ms. Sutter?
We'll vote aye. And thank you so much for the presentation.
Item number 3, La Cocina de Tula for a conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with alcoholic beverages on premises at 500 East Main Street, Suite 102. The purpose of this request is to allow the operation of a restaurant with the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption.
Thanks, Susan. The site is located on the north side of East Main Street, west of St. Paul's Boulevard in downtown Norfolk. Proposed use is consistent with NFK 2050, which designates this type as a regional activity center where commercial is a primary use. Property zone DBC, Downtown Business Center. In this district and everywhere else in the city, you need a conditional use permit to sell alcohol for on-premises consumption after 5 p.m. Here's a picture of the building. So again, this is the northwest corner of the building on Main Street. Site formerly operated as Little Irene's Cafe, which did not sell alcohol. So here's their floor plan. You can see the outdoor dining is going to be under those columns. It's a very small space. And as I discussed downstairs, the applicant has agreed that one of those tables will be moved to the north side of the building to ensure ADA compliance, 54 inches or so between the columns and the nearest table out there. They're requesting to be open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Their occupancy is 22 seats indoors, 6 outdoor seats, and a 35 total capacity. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit subject to the conditions in the staff report. The use aligns with NFK 2050 and is encouraged downtown. They have limited hours of operation and a small capacity. Stand by for any questions.
Any questions for? We do have the applicant here. Thank you. Iblis Garcia, would you like to add anything to the presentation? Well, actually, I think I have a couple of questions. Would you mind coming up?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I do have Ms. Garcia signed up to speak. Were you just standing
She's
with
my
her in
daughter, yeah.
support?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm more
awesome.
support here.
Will you start with your name and your mailing address, please?
Ibelis Garcia, 4808 Templo Drive in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Thank you. I did have a question about your experience with operating a restaurant that serves alcohol.
So I had experience like working in the restaurant since 2008 in New York City. I was working there for a few years. I was a bartender and I was working in the administration so yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Garcia? All right, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
All right, any discussion before we vote? Thank you. Susan, we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman? And Ms. Sutter?
We vote aye. Thank you so much for coming out. We'll make that recommendation to City Council.
On to our short-term rentals. Oh, nope, not quite. Bushwick Tattoo for conditional use permit to operate a tattoo parlor at 8012 Hampton Boulevard. The purpose of the request is to allow the operation of a tattoo parlor.
Good afternoon, Commission. Location of the site is in the southeast corner of Woodview Avenue and Hampton Boulevard. This is in the Glenwood Park neighborhood. It's currently vacant commercial. It was a barber shop and proposed to allow the operation of a tattoo parlor. Proposed use is consistent with NFK 2050, places this in the community mixed-use place type. Zoning is CC, community commercial, in this district and as well as other districts in the city. A CUP is required to operate a tattoo parlor. Here's a picture of the site. Previously operated as a barber shop. The applicant has made improvements in landscaping and has removed barbed wire. Staff is not requesting any further improvements at this time. The applicant does have over 20 years' experience working in barber shops and tattoo parlors. And the hours proposed are from 9 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Staff recommends approval, subject to conditions of staff report, which include operating hours from 9 a.m. to midnight. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. We do have the applicant here. James Teague. Mr. Teague, did you want to add anything to the presentation? All right, thank you for coming out. I do have also Janice Utt signed up to speak. You would like to ask questions? Yes, please. If you would, please come up. And please start with your name and your mailing address.
Yes, hi. My name is Janice.
Oh, wait till you get to the
I'm
microphone,
sorry,
just
walk
for the
slow.
folks at home.
I walk slow.
That's all right.
Hi, my name is Janice Utt. I live at 140 Maple Shade Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia. And my question is, I thought that the hours would be at 8 instead of at midnight. When we had met during the Civic League meeting, that's what was proposed to us. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't think so. It was just the hours, because it's, there's a housing neighborhood right behind the business, so I was concerned about the timing.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Utt. I'm going to ask Mr. Teague if you would come up and answer the question. And if we could go back to the slide with the picture, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Utt. Don't go far, because we still have the rebuttal when, after Mr. Teague speaks. Thank you. Hello.
How are you? James Toquay, 7818 Flowerfield Road, Norfolk, Virginia.
Thank you.
So the hours you see there is just a broad spectrum, but we will be closing at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m.
Okay, so you plan to close at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
But your application said midnight. Is
Yeah,
there an occasion where you might stay open to midnight?
If a tattoo runs later than what it is, say if we're doing a giant back piece or something like that, that's just a window. But the shop will be closed. That's just,
So no new customers
No,
after
no,
8
no,
o'clock,
no.
but if
After 8
something
o'clock, no new
runs.
customers. Yeah,
Okay.
everything will be closed by that time, just to finish up the job.
Typically, that would be, like, how many folks would be in the,
Just the client and tattooer. No one hanging out, no loitering, nothing of that nature.
I believe I mispronounced your last name.
Tokwe?
Tokwe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tokwe. Any other questions for Mr. Tokwe?
That clarified.
Hmm?
That was good clarification, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. And make sure, I want to go back to Ms. Utt.
Yes.
And if she has any further questions or things that you might want to refer back to, we're going to go into a rebuttal phase right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right.
much. Ms. Utt, would you like to, did that clarify things for you?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, thank you both for coming out. Any discussion before we go to a vote? All right, Susan, I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you both for all three of you for coming out.
757 contracting for a conditional use permit to develop a non-conforming lot at 708 37th Street. The purpose of this request is to allow the development of a non-conforming lot.
Thank you. 757 Contracting is requesting a conditional use permit at 708 37th Street in order to develop a non-conforming lot with a single-family home. This site is located on the north side of 37th Street between Colley and Gosnold Avenues. The lot is zoned SFT, which requires 40 to 50 feet of lot width and 4,000 to 5,000 square feet of lot area. The applicant's requesting a CUP to create a lot that is 25 feet wide with 2,500 square feet in area in order to build a single-family home. So currently 708 and 710 37th Street are considered a single zoning lot due to previous common ownership. In March 2021, the city determined that 708 37th Street was not buildable due to previous common ownership with 710 37th. In September 2021, 708 was sold back to the owner of 710, bringing both parcels into common ownership. 3 months later, 710 37th was sold out of common ownership with 708 again, therefore creating those two non-conforming lots. I'll also note that if they had never been in common ownership, that this could be developed without a CUP. And also, as late as 1978, a house did exist independent on this lot. It's since been demolished. Here's a photo of the site. The subject lot that we're looking at is the kind of middle portion there, covered with that white fence. Here is the proposed site plan. No parking is required. The existing driveway apron will be removed. The curb gutter and sidewalk will be restored. Here's the proposed elevations. We did review the predominant lot pattern for this area. Within 500 feet, that pattern definitely shows a propensity for narrow lots. The average of all lots is 36 feet. The average narrow lot is 31 feet. There are 14 other 25-foot wide lots. NFK 2050 designated the property as sustained traditional and includes two relevant goals. Growing equitably, Goal 2, Action 1 calls for increasing housing production and reducing minimum lot sizes. Celebrating our community, Goal 1, Action 9 calls for promoting purposeful infill development that adheres to the existing neighborhood form and character. This proposal is consistent with both of those goals. Given that it conforms with NFK 2050 and the existing block face is predominantly comprised of lots less than 50 feet in width and 5,000 square feet in area, staff recommends approval subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you. We do have the applicant here, Joshua Wharton. Would you like to add anything to the presentation? No, ma'am. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Wharton? No? All right. Thank you so much for coming out. Susan, I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye. We'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
Number 6, Mario Phillips for conditional use permit, a renewal to operate a short-term rental unit. It's a homestay at 1432 North Cova Avenue. The purpose of this request is to allow the continued operation of a homestay at 1432 Norcova.
Thank you. Mario Phillips is requesting a CUP in order to continue to operate his homestay in a 4-bedroom, single-family home on the east side of Norcova Avenue between East Princess Anne Road and Westview Street. A short-term rental is consistent with NFK 2050. Property is zoned SF6. In this district, all homestays with more than 3 bedrooms require a CUP to operate. Property does have a history of STR use. The applicant was issued a CUP to operate a homestay in February 2024. No violations were issued during the duration of the CUP. However, the applicant failed to renew on time, so his CUP expired in February 2026, and he received a violation for continuing to operate in May. He did cease operations when he got that violation and contacted us immediately for start his renewal process. But due to that time lapse and violation, we are recommending a 2-year CUP again. So here we see the site for the proposed short-term rental. No new improvements are requested, and previous improvements will need to be maintained. For the neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, approximately 71% of all residential parcels and 26% of all residential units are single-family. All-inclusive, if this application were approved, approximately 2.1% of residential parcels and 0.7% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Questions? Very much. We do have the applicant here, Mario Phillips. I do have a question. Would you come up and share your name and your mailing address?
Good evening. My name is Mario Phillips. My mailing address is 1432 Norcova Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia, 23502.
Thank you. And this is your primary address, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you tell us a little bit about how, I guess, the CUP expired? You just weren't aware of it, or did something
Yes.
happen?
I was tracking my renewal date of 2026 September, this year September. That's what I was tracking. I didn't. So when I think I started the process in 2024, August, September. That's when I remember starting. So I was tracking 2 years later. It was going to be August of 2026. I didn't get an email. That's what I told Mr. Manning. Didn't get an email for renewal. I did get an email to renew my business license, which I kept up to date, but I didn't receive an email to renew my conditional use permit because I was tracking August, September.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But we have your correct email address now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As I said, when I got a violation, I reached out to Mr. Manning and I started everything out. That's what happened. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, I just had a question. So the staff are recommending a 2-year expiration on this. Have you had a conversation with them about that? Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that since it's easier for me. I would initially like the 5-year, but I understand the situation, so I'm definitely okay with the 2-year. And then I'll do better next time and know the time and stuff like that, so I can renew and get a 5-year. So I'm okay with that.
Any other questions for Ms.? Thank you. We do have someone else here to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
An undecided person, Paula Sales. Ms. Sales, if you would, please start off with your name and your mailing address.
Hello, my name is Paul Sales, 1436 Norcova Avenue. I am next door. And I just had a question. Can you define what a short-term rental is?
Certainly. I'm going to invite.
I'll take care of
okay.
it. Yes, ma'am. So short-term rental is a stay at a home that's less than 30 days. So this is considered what's called a homestay. So this is the applicant's primary residence, and the applicant's allowed to rent out either a room or the house for a short period of time to someone that may be visiting the city.
And when you say short-term, is there, it could be a weekend? Okay.
One day at less than 30.
Any days less
Any
than
days less
30.
than 30.
Yeah.
And it can be that the owner is not living there?
It's not present when the people are utilizing the residence. That's correct.
But this home has already been used as that?
Yes, yes, ma'am. They had an approval since 2024.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. All right. Any other questions or discussion before we vote? Thank you. I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells? Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you both for coming out.
Item number 7, 1000 East EOV LLC for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental unit, vacation rental at 1000 East Ocean View Avenue. The purpose of this request is to allow a single-family home to operate as a short-term rental unit.
Thank you. So 1000 EOV LLC is requesting a conditional use permit in order to operate a vacation rental in a 4-bedroom, single-family home on the east side of Chesapeake Street, north of East Ocean View Avenue. The short-term rental is consistent with NFK 2050. Property is zoned RC in this district. All vacation rentals with more than 3 bedrooms need a CUP to operate. So a little bit of history for this site. The property was rezoned into a commercial district to allow a jet ski rental business in 1995. In 2021, it was rezoned again to allow more commercial uses. In 2024, it was rezoned to RC and converted into a 3-bedroom single-family home. In March of 2025, they received a permit to operate a vacation short-term rental, but in November of that year, they received a violation for listing it as a 4-bedroom short-term rental. In February 26, they received 2 more violations, one for advertising it as a banquet hall without zoning approval, and one for listing again as a 4-bedroom short-term rental. They have cleared those violations. They're now asking for a CUP to operate as a 4-bedroom short-term rental. They have submitted building permits to increase that bedroom count, and will be required to finish that process as a condition. Here's a site for this short-term rental. No new improvements are requested. A number of improvements were made as part of the last rezoning. So here's some photos from the inside from their most recent short-term rental listing, just showing that first floor. They originally had a floor plan that had what they had labeled as an event space, and it was set up much differently than this. They've given up on that. They understand they cannot operate in that capacity in the RC district, and they've kind of laid it out as you see, which is more just a large living room space, a table, like a table tennis, more of something you'd see in other large short-term rentals. So for the neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, approximately 95% of all residential parcels and 20% of all residential units are single-family. All-inclusive, if this application were approved, 4% of residential parcels and 1% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Those numbers are unchanged from today, since this property is currently permitted as a 3-bedroom short-term rental. Staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Any questions? No? All right. Thank you. We do have the applicant here. Taylor. Oh, thank you. Would you say your last name, please?
Jabin.
Jabin, thank
Yes.
you. Your name and mailing address, please.
Yes, Taylor Jabin, 1216 Granby Street, Suite 19, Norfolk, Virginia. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Taylor. I'm actually the Director of Operations for Sojourn, the furnished rental property management company that operates 1000 East Ocean View for the owner, Matthew Fisher. We are requesting the approval of the conditional use permit amendment to allow us to have the 4-bedroom short-term rental with a maximum occupancy of 10 guests. The property has been operating as a short-term rental under Sojourn's management since March of 2025 and has hosted more than 45 reservations during that time. This request does not involve any new construction, expansion of the structure, or a significant change in use. The 4th bedroom already exists. Currently it's set up with a desk as an office, but we would like to be able to allow that 4th bedroom to have a max occupancy of a 10-person occupancy limit. I also want to directly address the previous citation. The citation stemmed from a listing description that advertised the home as a 4-bedroom property, while the permit reflected 3 bedrooms. Once we were notified of the issue, we immediately contacted the booking platforms and corrected all the listings. The issue was resolved within a week, and we implemented additional internal review procedures to ensure future compliance. We believe our response demonstrated accountability and our commitment to operating responsibly within the city requirements. Beyond that, we also have other operational controls designed to protect both the guests and the neighbors. We use Truvi, which is a guest screening platform. We use Ring security cameras, Noise Aware, which is a monitoring device for decibel levels, remote lock access controls, professional property management oversight, 24-hour phone coverage, on-call personnel available to respond locally within a 20-minute window, and we have GFL Environmental set up to pick up our trash 3 times a week at the property. This is a waterfront property that provides accommodations for families and visitors seeking to enjoy Norfolk and the Ocean View community. The requested amendment simply aligns the permit with the existing layout of the home and allows the property to be better served for those guests while remaining professionally managed and closely monitored. Thank you for consideration.
Madam Chair, if I can just clarify.
Please.
The application, due to it only having 4 bedrooms, is only permitted to have 8 total maximum guests. So the total maximum is based on the number of bedrooms, not with a maximum of 10 if you happen to have 5 bedrooms. So just keep that in mind. It is 8.
Oh.
That would be your maximum.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
We don't want any more
Okay.
violations.
Maximum of 8.
So maximum of 8.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Ms., pronounce it again, Jabin?
Yes.
Jabin, for Ms. Jabin.
Can you speak to the banquet violation and how did that happen?
So Nicole Pace, who is the owner, I believe would be able to speak to that more. I apologize. I was not involved when that happened.
Go back to the slide with the timeline on it. Please, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Said that you've been managing since 2025, Sojourn?
Yes. Yeah, so I've been with Sojourn since actually 2022, but I was working out of the DC region, so I have not been involved in the Norfolk region until recently. But we have been managing the property since March of 2025.
Okay,
as Sojourn.
and with managing the property, do you manage the listings as well?
I actually do not. I do the on-the-ground operations, so I manage the staff of making sure the guests are okay and the facility management and those types of things.
Of course, you should have stated that differently. Does Sojourn manage?
Oh, yes, yes,
the
we
listings?
do, correct. Yeah, we do the listings, we do facilities, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the question, did Sojourn listed as, advertised as a banquet hall, or did the owner himself went around Sojourn and advertised it as a banquet hall?
I do apologize, I don't know the answer to that.
You have controls in place to monitor how the owner is, I mean, it's his property, but
Yeah.
you all trying to be in compliance as well. Was there any controls around that?
Yeah, so I would assume that there was conversations that might have happened that they wanted to advertise, but they didn't do the due diligence prior. And so obviously they might have advertised and then realized that that was not allowed, so then they quickly took it down.
That's an assumption.
Correct, I apologize, I was not involved when that was happening.
I have a quick question. Back to the aerial or the photo of the property. You have it looks like a 3 or 4 car garage that's next to the building. Is that used as a garage or is that used as an amenity?
So right now, there is a detached garage that
Right.
is empty, and nothing is being used of it as right now. And then there is another part that's attached to the property that is just like storage space. There's like a couple kayaks in there. Sometimes people move the ping pong table in there if they don't want that in like the main downstairs living space. And then we have the parking lot, right directly behind us that can house 6 cars.
The owner you referenced.
Yes, Matthew.
Can you share his name again? And
Yes.
And what's the company he works for?
Matthew Fisher, and it's 1000 East Ocean View LLC. I actually know him from like Triton, Tesseract. Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
I know a lot of attention is being paid to short-term rentals, especially in Ocean View. So we want to make sure that we get all of this correct the first time.
Sure.
Anything else, any other questions or anything else you'd like to add?
I think the main thing is the waterfront family accommodations are really in high demand, and we are taking it very seriously with all the oversight, wanting to make sure that we're doing it all correctly the first time. We have all of our monitoring systems in place to make sure that it's a safe and fun place for the guests, but also for all of our neighbors. And so we just hope that, you know, we could be allowed to make that change.
I have one more question. though.
Right ahead.
Because the garage that you say is not really used as a garage, it's used as storage.
Yeah.
You said 6 parking spaces.
Correct.
But the site shows 12 striped spaces.
So there is a space that is in front of the detached garage that is really not usable for parking. And then there's another space that, from when I was here there last week, 6 cars really comfortably
Okay.
could
It looks
park.
like you could fit certainly more than 6 cars.
Yeah. No, I think-
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not a good shot. Yeah, especially if you're not
Yeah,
using
so-
if you're not using the garage, then you have parking spaces that are in front of the garage.
Right, but we would only have guests park, so there's 3 spaces in front of those double glass doors, and then 3 spaces that would be facing this direction, not on the grass, but, so we would say a max of 6 cars parking there.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is this a 2-year expiration?
Yes.
Any other questions for staff or Ms. Jabon? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion before we vote?
Off the kind of
Right.
property management.
I think we have some similar concerns, and I don't want to say no, but I have hesitation because of the most recent violation, which are things that we expect not to happen when you're going through a management company to help property owners through this.
Ready to vote? Understood.
I'm ready to vote.
Or do we want to make a motion to continue?
What would you ask for it?
Do we want to hear from the property owner? I feel like that's the assumption, is that we're not certain about the owner.
So I guess, I'm sorry.
Yes.
To bring it back. Is the property owner local or are they out of state?
I apologize, I don't know where Matthew resides.
It says he's on Granby Street.
Yeah, so 1216 Granby is our office.
251
Oh, okay, yeah,
Is that his office or your office?
EOB.
go ahead.
Just to clarify, so Matt Fisher is on the property as the person, but it's under the EF Capital umbrella. So 251 Granby is the address for EF Capital. And I
So
did
what is
confirm that
their
with
role?
him. Was that?
What is their role?
They just own a number of properties.
So they own the properties and your company manages them?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd vote for talking to him.
Is there a motion?
I would move to continue to.
Concerned that it becomes a dog and pony show when he comes in like, yeah, I'll follow the rules, and then just walks away and is not really sincere.
Well, that's why we have enforcement.
Yeah. I'm ready to vote. It's just I'm just not sure if continue is going to solve anything other than just kind of see what happens.
Additional burden on staff.
Right.
I do hear a motion to continue, but I did not hear a second.
I'm okay.
Okay, all right, well then I think we're ready to vote.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
No.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton.
No.
Mr. Bateman.
Sure if I should abstain from this vote or not due to my financial relationship, business relationship with EF Capital on another project.
I would be safe to just abstain.
I'm going to vote no. I do thank you for coming out, and I think, and we're making that recommendation to City Council. It might be helpful if the owner is present so that some of these answers, some of these questions can be answered. Thank you. Well, I think that was our last application. It was? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.